Hi, I'm Johnny McGee. Welcome to the Prisma Cloud CI/CD Security Tech Talk. My colleague Mike Roberts and I will discuss how Prisma Cloud secures your code-to-cloud journey with CI/CD security. We are senior cloud application security architects with Palo Alto Networks, helping customers secure their DevOps environments. During this Tech Talk, we will explain in depth why CI/CD security is essential when developing cloud-native applications and demonstrate how Prisma Cloud helps developers, DevOps, and DevSecOps teams to deploy code that has been evaluated and remediated against for CI/CD risks and vulnerabilities. Customers tell us that adopting a DevOps methodology is fundamentally changing the way they approach security. Security release cycles are moving faster and faster. In fact, it is not uncommon for organizations to release software a number of times per day. In development, speed is the key. Security must be embedded within the DevOps process. Security cannot sit outside looking in, and we can't be a blocker or slow down the development process. The engineering ecosystem is a jungle of technologies. You have source code management systems, CI/CD tools, systems for hosting binaries and artifacts, along with cloud services for running your containers and Kubernetes pods. New languages and frameworks are being introduced all of the time. On top of that, you also have users and apps that have varying levels of access to each of these systems. This complex web of relationships and access only gets worse as the environment grows larger. And as we all know, security teams are finding it difficult to keep up with the fast-moving engineering train. Embedding security across the DevOps ecosystem can seem complex and difficult. At Palo Alto Networks, we have developed a unique approach to DevSecOps through CI/CD security. We have developed and implemented a security methodology based on three key principles. SIP, security in the pipeline, addresses the risk of code with security flaws flowing through the pipeline. SOP, security of the pipeline, addresses the risk of the systems in the pipeline being compromised. And SOP, or security around the pipeline, addresses the risk of the pipeline being bypassed. Using the SIP, SOP, SOP methodology, Prisma Cloud exposes CI/CD risks, classifies them, prioritizes them using the OWASP Top 10 CI/CD Security Risk Framework. Palo Alto Networks acquired cybersecurity in December 2022. Known as an industry leader in CI/CD security and the authors of the OWASP Top 10 CI/CD Risk Framework, cybersecurity has enabled Prisma Cloud to deliver a scored risk-based analysis against this framework. This provides security teams with the ability to categorize CI/CD risks based on systems, tools, and permissions. Using the OWASP Top 10 CI/CD Risk Framework enables organizations to ensure that CI/CD pipelines are secured with vulnerabilities remediated against before deployment pipelines are run and applications are deployed in the cloud. Let's take a deeper dive into how Prisma Cloud addresses CI/CD security using the SIP, SOP, SOP methodology.
So let's have a look at each one of these in detail. First, let's talk about SIP. So with SIP, we're addressing insecure code as the first step in the CI/CD security journey. This requires mapping everywhere we store code and all the languages and frameworks we use. Mapping needs to be done continuously to account for the dynamic nature of the engineering ecosystem. We must also evaluate all the deployed security tools, such as infrastructure as code scanning, secret scanning, SAST, etc. Adopting this approach ensures that we expose security vulnerabilities and misconfigurations early in the development lifecycle. The developers can see the results of the scans directly in their tooling, and the security teams can then see the scan results directly in Prisma Cloud to get a better understanding of the code risks and overall application security trends in the organization. We want the experience to be as frictionless as possible to enhance the developer's ability to find and fix issues early without slowing them down, thus ensuring that insecure code is not deployed into the cloud runtime environment.
So what does SIP look like inside of Prisma Cloud? Well, with Prisma Cloud, we can onboard our providers. We can onboard our code repositories and our CI/CD systems, such as GitHub Actions. When we integrate with GitHub Actions, we can then process the code inside of GitHub Actions and identify all the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations that are there. We integrate directly into GitHub Actions through the Security tab and specifically under Code Scanning. And this allows us to review all the code for vulnerabilities. It allows us to identify vulnerabilities such as the one you're seeing here in Morgan, and so suggest a fixed version that we can move to instead. We can also identify any infrastructure as code misconfigurations. So if we have an S3 bucket that doesn't have object versioning enabled, for example, we can point that out as a problem as well, right inside of GitHub Actions. And then we report all the results back to Prisma Cloud. So all these CI/CD runs are reported back, and the results are sent to Prisma Cloud. So we can see all the vulnerabilities and all the software packages that we have, as well as any secrets that we've identified, and infrastructure as code errors, like the Google storage bucket error that you're seeing on the screen right now. So all this allows us to have that centralized visibility and control right from within Prisma Cloud.
So let's talk about SOP, or security of the pipeline. Implementing posture management of pipeline systems is the second step of the CI/CD security journey. From source control to artifact and container repositories, attackers are finding misconfigurations in these systems to exploit. Source code management, CI platforms, and developer workstations all need to be securely configured to achieve the goal of establishing and maintaining security of the pipeline. Identifying these risks early in the DevOps process ensures that we identify security vulnerabilities and misconfigurations before CI/CD deployment and build pipelines are run that potentially expose security vulnerabilities to hackers. So when we look at this demo, what's coming up on the screen here is we can see what are our CI/CD risks. We can see by system or by category. And these categories are aligned to the OWASP top 10 that Johnny was mentioning earlier. We can also sort these risks by severity. So here we're taking a look at all the critical and high risks. And there's a specific risk we want to highlight here. It's the direct poison pipeline risk. And when this comes up, this is a very concerning risk to a lot of organizations, where it allows an attacker to potentially exploit a weakness between the source control and the build pipelines. We can see the details of this risk here by clicking on the link that takes us to the OWASP page, which defines and describes this risk. We can also see the details of this risk directly inside the window here, and as well as the steps to solve, which is really handy to be able to figure out how to remediate. Then we can see the open events that led to this actual risk. Here we can see there's some user accounts that have access to potentially exposed credentials. And then when we can build a kill chain graph, which tells us from an attacker's perspective how this risk could potentially be exploited. So here we can see how all of these things are stitched together, and we can see what are the exposed credentials, for example. So this really allows us to have a deeper look into this specific risk and why it's concerning to us. So let's talk about SAP, or security around the pipeline. And this is really our third step in our CI/CD security journey. It's where we provide organizations with a security context for an environment where code and artifacts constantly flow through a connected CI/CD system on a DevOps workstation. The goal is to provide a mechanism that ensures no single individual or system can directly connect to and modify cloud resources. Examples of this include where Prisma Cloud can raise alerts when anomalies occur, such as when an asset deployed to the cloud through the CI/CD system has been manually changed by an individual user. Or we can implement measures that set the proper branch protection rules across all repositories. For instance, this could be a rule that no single developer can publish to production unless approved by 2 reviewers. Let's take a look at an example of a security around the pipeline alert. Here we have an instance where one of our resources in Azure was manually modified outside of the infrastructure as code process. So that's concerning, right? That's called a drift, and we want to alert on that. So we can go to the audit trail, we can figure out what exactly changed. And here, in this case, a tag was added, drift is created. So that resource was manually modified. We can also click into the specifics on this particular alert by looking at the alert ID. We can see the details of the alert. We can see which infrastructure as code resource was created originally to produce this resource in Azure. And then we can go to the drift details by going to the projects page. And that's going to tell us what specifically was changed on this Azure storage resource. So we can look at the details of this Terraform resource as it was originally created. We can look at the alert that was created in the projects page where this traced resource was manually modified, and then specifically what changed. From here, we can even fix this, and we can make the running resource and the infrastructure as code resource then match each other.
What are the key takeaways from the CI/CD Tech Talk? 1. Embed CI/CD security in the DevSecOps workflow. DevOps and DevSecOps teams need to incorporate CI/CD security in the security processes, tooling and compliance. Understanding the CI/CD ecosystem, the attack surface and the risks enables organizations to build an effective strategy. 2. Understand your DevOps ecosystem. Before implementing CI/CD security measures, you need visibility of the full ecosystem. You need to know what you're protecting. Prisma Cloud provides detailed visibility of repositories, CI/CD tooling, VCS plugins, and third-party apps that are part of the CI/CD pipelines. 3 is understanding your CI/CD risks. Prisma Cloud enables organizations to view and triage risks based on the OWASP Top 10 CI/CD Security Risk Framework. Adopting this approach enables DevOps and DevSecOps teams to classify and prioritize risks and then remediate based on the attack surface. And 4, understand where the CI/CD process can be compromised. Through the DevOps process, code is getting deployed daily, in fact hourly by many organizations. This fast-paced approach is only possible through CI/CD automation. Prisma Cloud ensures this process cannot be bypassed, enabling organizations to implement security guardrails. Prisma Cloud delivers a comprehensive code-to-cloud security platform. An integral part of Prisma Cloud is CI/CD security, which utilizes our SIP-SOP methodology and risk prioritization using the OWASP Top 10 CI/CD risk framework to secure organizations' CI/CD systems and pipelines. For further advice and guidance, please contact Mike Roberts, Amit Smitzer, or myself, Johnny McGee. We will be happy to help you on your CI/CD security journey.